So I mentioned earlier that I was checking out Tommy on MSCS Media because he has a video up right now that has like 800,000 views. And you know they're legit.
Of course.
And the comments are turned off, which is normal.
Yep. Checks out.
You don't want to have engagement underneath your very popular video, obviously. But let's start it off, and then I'm going to tell you why I was so intrigued by this interview specifically. All right, so the show starts off with, please note, as of 1/1/2023, full-length episodes in video format will only be available at Spotify. Link at the top of the description below. He missed 2 letters in description. 2!
Yeah.
I've seen typos and misspellings before, but that's not even close.
Did he, or have you been deceived?
The deception.
Things get lost in interplanetary,
Yes.
Yeah.
I've noticed that. Because this is the thing we were talking about before, where Tommy's like, has this big banner, it's a Spotify exclusive. I'm like, I got this on YouTube. Why does he keep saying that? So apparently now, we'll check it. In a couple of weeks, it will only be on Spotify. We'll see if that's true or not.
Wow, very exciting.
All right. This is what I'm excited about. His guest is David Icke. Do you know who that is?
I don't think so, no.
So he spells it wrong in the title of the video. He spells David Icke's his last name is Icke. He spells it Ikce, which it's a 4-letter fucking name. Like, figure it out on that one. It's kind of fucked up. All right. He introduces his guest here without asking a question, but he thinks he asked a question. So this is very awkward right here.
Right, we have Mr. David Icke. Thank you so much for joining us today. You've written a million books. I think your theories, for a large part, have actually come true, and we're seeing a lot of them happening today in front of our face.
Yeah.
No, you go. No, you talk. What an introduction that was.
Those were some words.
You've written books and you have theories? Go.
I am pretty prolific. You're not wrong.
All right. So David Icke was a footballer in Britain. He had to retire very early, the age of 21, because of arthritis, and he went into broadcasting. And he was a news journalist for a while, and then became a sports journalist. And then in 1990, something happened. And all of a sudden, the world became clear to David Icke. He realized that we're actually being controlled by the Illuminati, and that's where it started. The Illuminati's pulling the strings. They're the ones, and he was saying this shit before a lot of people were. This was not as common back in 1990. People were saying shit like this. He would sell out auditoriums. People would come to see him talk. He eventually got to the point, Mike, and I believe he was the first one to introduce this concept, that the people who control the world are not from this earth. They're reptilian beings who look like humans. And he doesn't, producer Chris's face right now, he doesn't say this as a joke. He means this. And he lost all credibility when he came out with that. And he was the laughingstock for a very long time. And people were like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? He's an idiot.
Until he's doing this interview with a reptilian form.
No. So what happened was the rise of Alex Jones, the rise of all these other guys. You're talking about conspiracies and the Illuminati and all this kind of stuff. And all of a sudden, David Icke's theories didn't seem as crazy anymore. People were like, maybe this Icke guy was onto something. Right. So he's kind of made a little bit of a resurgence in recent years. Now, I'm going to start off with a clip that proves Tommy is not from Pennsylvania. He claims to be an American from Pennsylvania, and there's no way that he would say this if he were.
What I find so interesting is you grew up and you were playing football, and that was your way to get out of the slums. And then you get into broadcasting.
No American would say you grow up playing football to a soccer player. It's unheard of.
Oh, interesting.
Right?
Interesting.
Yeah. I think I've just cracked the code on this one.
You've blown this wide open.
I really am. Pretty proud of myself on this one. All right. I mentioned there's a theme today. So David is talking about how we live in a simulation. And the laws of physics are just the rules of the simulation. Because this is where this guy's gone to now. He thinks that reality is not reality, and it's a matrix and all that kind of stuff. What I love is Tommy's trying to follow along with this, and Tommy's so dumb. How dumb is he? Well, see for yourself here.
What we call the laws of physics are the laws of the simulation. And that's why when people have these near-death experiences, they describe a world in very common terms and themes that has a very different, if you like, law of physics than we have here. It makes sense from where I'm coming from.
Why do they always say they see white? Why do they always say, I see a white, I see white, I see white, I see white? When somebody's in a near-death experience, 8 out of 10 will say,
It almost turned into a Christmas carol.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Because you're in a Target.
I see a white, I see white, I see white, I see white. When somebody's in a near-death experience, 8 out of 10 will say, I saw a white light. Do you think that that's something that was just shoved in their subconscious all their life from other people saying, oh, I almost died and
Wouldn't
I
it be
saw
better
the
if
light?
there were only whites?
And then
What I'd like to do, if it's possible,
Sure.
is to come back to that in a moment.
absolutely.
So obviously that's not the point of any of this conversation.
It also kind of ruins David Icke's theory, it sounds like.
Yes. Yeah, so he's like, all right, just to go on about the rules of the simulation real quick. Because that's what I'm talking about, not people seeing white when they have a near-death experience, you moron.
I have to question Icke's credentials. He's being interviewed by a fucking alien, and he's not calling it out.
That's a really good point. How are you not picking up on this? That's pretty funny. All right, so David Icke has a name for the simulation that we're in. I think this is pretty creative.
There's two fields. There's the field that you might call the infinite field, and then there's the simulation field, which is because what this simulation, this matrix is information, and this matrix field has overlaid the infinite field, and which being tuned in to this matrix field, so that's what we are. That's what we are experiencing. We're not experiencing infinite reality in that sense. We're experiencing this overlaid matrix reality.
What would be the infinite field? What would the infinite field be? How would you describe that?
Everything else, the real reality. You've never seen The Matrix? He's literally describing The Matrix to us right now. He even said the word Matrix. That's how you know.
Tommy.
If we were living in a simulation, would we have an asshole pontificating about how it's a simulation?
Who's directing this one?
Is it still the man, or have they converted yet? Or
What I think's funny about this, and I didn't do a ton of research on this, but the movie The Matrix came out in 1999. Mm-hmm. David Icke's book
Divisible by 11.
Oh, shit!
Sorry.
Wait a second. There are 9/11s in 99. 9/11.
oh my
This
god!
is making a lot of sense right now. So his book about the simulation came out in 2002. After the movie The Matrix came out in 1999, I would have just given it a different name. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just to seem like I wasn't ripping it off. That's all I'm trying to say. All right. So now Tommy's trying to keep up with what's going on here. And I forgot.
As am I, frankly.
All right. There's a lot to take in today. We're going to learn a lot today, guys. I forgot that Stuttering John got Scott the Engineer a job with Tommy. So Scott the Engineer is actually running the show right now. And there's a hilarious glitch right here where all of a sudden it goes black and then it turns on and you see Scott like panicking and trying to like figure out what's happening.
I used to call it the Minecraft, the simulation for a long time. I would go back and forth between dimensions and simulation. And then can simulation survive with the dimensions
Minecraft
as well?
And things like that. You've probably come across the work of academic physicists and such like, who pointed out.
All right. I just thought that was funny because Scott the Engineer fucking up is something I've enjoyed for many years of my life.
He's pulling the strings.
Yeah, right.
Wouldn't it be amazing if Howard just retires and Robin and Fred and Baba Booey are all working for Tommy? Like the whole.
Oh my God. They all get jobs with Tommy MSCS because they look at the numbers like this is like the biggest show on the internet.
Yeah.
We'd be crazy not to
It's a
take this
natural
job.
progression.
I'm the king of all media.
That was a good Tommy.
All right. So this is great because as you heard there, Tommy's trying to be like real smart and informed on this. And he sounds like a kid who just watched Rick and Morty talking to an actual scientist and trying to sound smart.
How would the dimensions counter-align or align with the simulation? Because like I said, I was stuck on that simulation for a long, long time. That's what made sense to me, along with the dimensions. But how would could they coexist? Could a simulation and dimensions coexist?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the infinite field, it's an infinite field of different realities, what people call dimensions. What are those different realities? They're different bands of frequency.
Yeah. Dummy, dimension, simulations, whatever you want to call it. Keep up, stupid. This is what we're talking about. But I was under the impression that there were many different dimensions and portal guns. Okay, yeah. I see where you're getting your information from. So
I remember the one where there's an infinite number of Ricks and an infinite number of Mortys.
I want to see Blind Mike interview Tommy from MSCS Media. I want to see what that would look like. All right, so now this is where Tommy's at his best, because they start talking about how animals perceive reality differently than we do, which proves that we're in a simulation. Follow me here now, Chris. This is proof.
A lot of animals can see further into the field than visible light, human visible light. And therefore, you'll be in a room and the cat will be reacting to what to you is empty space. And you'll say, what's wrong with the cat? Well, stop it. There's nothing there. But to the cat, there is. They're seeing something that you can't see.
Or when the dog barks.
Around it.
Or when the dog barks all the time.
Around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Dogs too.
Yeah. Tommy, good job, buddy.
Doesn't make any sense, Rick.
Good job, Tommy.
Yes, dogs also, I guess. Yeah.
Sure, Tommy.
Name 3 more animals.
Yeah.
All right.
Imagine giving this guy mushrooms. How fucking exhausting he would be.
So now they talk about what ghosts actually are, and Tommy's not following this conversation at all because he hears ghosts and he just thinks of something different.
So what are ghosts? Ghosts are simply entities that enter close enough into our reality for us to see them. It's a form of interference. It's a form of visual interference, like 2 radio stations interfering with each other. You get one dominant station, and then you get the less dominant one that's interfering. Well, that's the ghost, visually. So
in this reality.
So they're all around us. So it's just we can't see them, and we're not sensitive to them.
In this reality, that's what we're seeing. Like we think we see a ghost in this reality, right?
Yeah.
Possibly a space ghost.
I was waiting for the guy to respond. I thought he was just dumbfounded.
Well, he's looking at it just like, dude.
Sure, Tommy. Whatever.
Yeah, he's like, what the fuck? I thought I explained it pretty well. No, in a totally different fucking reality, you idiot. Jesus Christ. What do you think we're talking about? So then, after 2.5 hours of this, and I kid you not, this is the conversation. There's one guy talking about the craziest shit you ever heard, and Tommy trying to keep up and just using buzzwords to make it seem like he's following. And then Tommy says this.
That's how it works.
I know you have other plans. I don't want to take advantage of it because I definitely want to do a part 2.
Yeah.
But anybody who listens to this for 2 hours and can't make sense of it, it's so simple. Especially when you go back to, everybody knows. You hear your dog barking, you yell at it. What are you barking at? Stop it. You're going to wake up the kid, whatever. No, it sees, it feels frequencies that you just can't feel because it's desensitized. Right? Or it's
exactly
where we're fed all this BS, blah, 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 and on and on and on.
It's so simple.
Yeah, good recap.
The only thing that he understood was dogs barking.
Yeah.
It's like, this is so simple.
The dog thing was the only thing that sunk in, and it was his point.
I know. David didn't even bring up dogs. He brought up cats.
Don't these earth dogs piss you off too?
If you don't understand the last 2 hours, just think of your dog barking. That's pretty much what it is.
All right, so now Tommy tries to do a plug for David. This is fun.
And anyone listening to this, watching this, you have to read the books because they're from the 90s, 90 to 2003. Everything going on today with the gender, the religion, the division at an all-time high, the censorship you had talked about in the late 90s when censorship wasn't even a word, I don't think.
It was. Censorship wasn't even a thing back then.
You probably should have researched this.
Fucking idiots.
That all in the family disclaimer didn't make sense to anyone in 1972.
And then the other thing I love about Tommy is a guy will be making a point, but he'll use a person's name or a phrase, and Tommy latches onto that thing, which has nothing to do. It's neither here nor there, but he has to comment on it.
Of a plan, a project called Project Bluebeam, to fake an alien invasion to justify the centralization of global power. You remember Ronald Reagan said at one point that
I don't like him.
if there was an invasion...
He's talking about Project Bluebeam. He's like, remember Ronald Reagan once said, I don't like that guy. Well, good news. He's dead.
Yeah.
Tommy, let him make his point.
He can't hurt you.
I don't like that guy. I don't like him.
I wish Tommy just did 40 minutes on Reaganomics and why it doesn't work.
Trickle down my ass. It's like a dog barking. All right. So now David talks about how he's still banned on Twitter, and this is fun.
Well, there you
Elon,
go.
that's another story. Elon's a whole nother story. I think Elon's a lot different than meets the surface.
He's more than meets the surface, producer Chris. Maybe that's the proof that he's not American. Hold on a second. Let me think about this. Is that the proof he's not from this country? Probably. All right, so you'll notice that he was trying to end the conversation 20 minutes prior to this. It's still going. He's having a really hard time. It's like me on WATS. Can't close it out for some reason.
Congratulations on all your success, and I'll tell you what, I have the utmost respect for you, because even when everybody looked at you like you were crazy, you kept going on and on and on, and now you can look at them and say, hey, am I still crazy? And in about 10 years you could say, am I still crazy?
Yeah. Because you sat there for 10 years.
And David, if you can hold out 40 years, you're going to be proven right.
The look that David Icke is giving him after this long conversation, he's like, yeah, you know what? People think you're fucking crazy.
Outro by Harrison Young.
Why did you bring that up?
I like that he doesn't give him that he's not crazy. He's like, but in 10 years, you can still ask if you're crazy.
Also, I love the text on the screen. So, only at Spotify, at MSCS Media. These are the instructions to watch the show on Spotify. It says, first time, and I think that's a pipe. I read it first time I go to episode tap play, but I think that these are concepts separated by pipes. So
But
first
it's
time,
funny if you read it as I.
go to episode tap play, tap settings pop up, data saver off, back to podcast hit play. Never have to do this again. Enjoy. I love the way he writes. I'd read a book written by him.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be a lot of fun.
That's definitely how he thinks.
Yes. All right, this is the last clip I have, and this is just embarrassing. This is how the show ends.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you.
See you again.
Don't be a bloke.
Bye.
Don't be a bloke. Right? Don't be a bloke, mate. My friend from Canada used to always call me a bloke.
Or a bloke, yeah.
Yeah, I used to.
I'll talk about that.
Yeah, I had a really
David.
good friend in Canada, and we would do a lot of coding on the computer. And whenever I would, mess
said
up a
goodbye.
line, he'd be like, "Mate, you dumb bloke! I told you, you bloke, you bloke, you bloke." So it just brings back memories.
It was his Asian friend.
Yeah, he must be.
You
He
bloke
must have a lot of English roots then.
Yeah, he went from England to or UK to England.
Ah, there you go.
Yep, there you go. Oh. All right, Mr. Ike, thank you so much.
See you, mate.
See you. Appreciate it.
Hey, tea and crumpets. Am I right, David?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Who are these podcasts?